Town of Walpole Amendment to Order of Conditions, Conservation Commission Public Hearing, in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given in the amendment, the existing order of conditions, DEP number 315-1170, for the ongoing gasoline remediation involving the injection of Petrofix activated carbon into the groundwater through small temporary injection points, 539 Main Street in Walpole. Plans are on file at the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held in Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, October 30th, 2019, beginning 7 p.m. All interested persons requested to be present. Time is now 7 p.m. And I have some things for the read for the record. The Planning Board, in receipt of your request, comments above reference filing, please be advised there are no planning comments at this time. Board of Health, at its October 15th meeting, voted unanimously they are pleased to clean up remediation, continues and pleased with the request to amend the order of conditions in order to extend the monitoring compliance of the site. Is from Zoning Board. This project is not before the Board of Appeals, and we therefore have no comments at this time. This is from the Town Engineer. We received various submittal materials, including requests for comments, 14-page RAM plan with various attachments, and additional information. We note the following. DPW has no technical comments on this proposal. However, we are concerned that the proposed borings are not in conflict with a municipal wastewater main which runs through the locust site. Sewer main is not shown on the main site plan included with the RAM in Figure 3. We have attached sewer record plan for this area and recommend it be added to the site plan. The DPW should be called to mark out the sewer main before any additional borings are installed. You have this?
Yes.
Okay. So representing the applicant?
Mr. Chairman, Paul McManus from Ecotech, and with me is Jeff Curtis, who's the licensed site professional from Response Environmental for the site. I have for the commission a very slightly revised plan. The only change on it is to include the location of the sewer main that you just referenced from the town engineer. Otherwise, it's the same plan that was filed with the NOI. Also, there's a bit of an analysis of the remedial materials that I'll discuss in a minute. So the commission probably recall that there was a gasoline release gas station. This is the gas station that's in front of the supermarket. There's a brook that runs along the left side as you look at it from Main Street. This is the Stop and Shop parking lot. This is the gas station. Stop and Shop is off here. I actually attached a couple photos. There's a trench drain that was impacted at this location at the back of the service station where it transitions to the parking lot. And then this photo is really the bulk of the proposed work area. So it's, it's clearly within the commission's jurisdiction, but it's all this developed area, it's the parking lot, landscaping, and there's a couple of trees over here. Those won't be impacted. You can see this curb line here is this curb line here in the photo. So basically what's, the commission gave authorization to do some cleanup in the form of soil excavation. Jeff could talk about what was done there, but this is that was not adequate to fully clean up the groundwater at the site. So what's proposed is in situ, in place treatment And that treatment consists of drilling a series of small diameter wells and injecting under low pressure Petrofix solution, which is activated carbon. It's similar if you have a water filter in your house or even one of those kitchen ones. It's the same sort of carbon that's in those. Goes in very fine particles. It goes in water. So the carbon goes in. The carbon will absorb, attach to the hydrocarbons, and then there's so that keeps the hydrocarbons in place. And then ultimately you want to get natural biodegradation. There's microbes that will consume those hydrocarbons. But there's a sulfate and nitrate addition that goes in there as they refer to them as electron acceptors, basically to facilitate the microbial activity. So the second piece of information that's on my letterhead that I provided to you that is we did a little research in anticipation of potential questions from the commission, about what is the fate of these materials that go in there, because the groundwater at the site does go and move towards the stream over here. So there's really three components to it. There's the activated carbon, which has a tendency to really stick to soil particles, just doesn't move. Then the nitrate can be in a dissolved phase, move a little bit, but the folks at Regenesis who do this work have found they've never seen it move more than 30 feet. And we're about 45 feet from the nearest area of the proposed injection, about 45 feet to the stream. The sulfate actually does in fact have the potential to make a little bit of an effect in the stream. Sulfate has a half-life in the groundwater of about 47 days. So the information that to provide, we went through and did some math, some pretty conservative math about, could that sulfate make its way to the stream? So what we assumed is that we have this area moving about 1.5 feet per day in the groundwater towards the stream. We also assumed about a 6-foot thickness of water containing this getting to the stream, which is probably very conservative, but that's what we assumed in the calculations. The other thing that I did, you'll see in there, is I went and looked at USGS stream stats to get predicted flow for the stream. And what I did was I took the essentially drought condition in the stream and said, okay, if we had this groundwater with the sulfate concentration in it moving to the stream under that really low flow condition, what concentration of the sulfate might we get in the stream? And just to make sure I get the numbers right. So under the 7-day, 10-year low flow, which is what I'm calling the drought conditions, based upon the other assumptions that I made, we get about a 16 milligram per liter, which is part per million, potential addition of sulfate into the stream flow. If you went even with the 95% flow condition, in other words, according to the USGS, pretty low flow that's exceeded 95% of the time. At that flow condition, you'd have about 6 milligrams per liter. So what does that mean? In natural waters, sulfate concentrations can vary very widely, up to from 1 to even 5,000 parts per million. But 5 to 30 is more typical. And then in terms of standards for drinking water, there's US EPA has what they call a secondary contaminant level, which is it's not a health issue, but really an aesthetic issue, and that level is 250 milligrams per liter or parts per million. So again, under the drought condition, we're talking about an addition of 16 and the drinking water standard is 250. From an ecological standard perspective, if you look, I've also attached from the USGS, information about toxicity testing that they did on a variety of species, really towards potentially creating a water quality standard for sulfate. Because I should have said, there is no state or federal water quality standard for sulfate. It just hasn't been that much of a priority that they've made a standard. But these folks are looking at it. And the most sensitive, they looked at it from 4 different organisms. They looked at acute and chronic. They looked at lethal and sublethal, growth and reproduction, measurement endpoints. And the most conservative of all, looking at it all those different ways, the most conservative finding that they had, which was the effective concentration on 20% of any organism, was a concentration of 200 milligrams per liter. So ultimately what that boils down to is that we're pretty confident that this material, even if all those conservative assumptions are met, including the low flow, that even with those conservative conditions, we really wouldn't have any sort of negative effect on the stream. And Jeff, I think, has some of the activated carbon, if you wanted to.
Not specifically. This material that Regenesis manufactures this is activated carbon. It's present in your water filters and everything else. It's just carbon. And they grind it really, really finely and mix it with water until it kind of is molasses. And then before you inject it, you dilute it with more water. It's just for transport, so it's in the molasses form. But what happened here is this trench drain was affected. Sovereign and NRC excavated out this material, cleaned sidewalls above the water table, but by the time it was dug out, enough gasoline made it to the water table that we have some coming on the site, and it's traveling generally in this direction. Frankly, it exceeds drinking water conditions, and we're in a drinking water area, and that's the only thing that's driving it. It's not being driven by aquatic or vapor standards or anything else. It's just drinking water. And this product it's a new product. I've used it in the past with another site. It worked extremely well. And it's just to knock those low levels down farther so that it's no longer a threat. So it's going to be done up in this area initially, and then depending on how things look, we might put some more injection points down here. You'll notice that that sewer main is over here next to the brook, and we don't propose doing any injections beyond this point at this point in time. And if we did, we'd come back. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
That's it. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay, Landis?
I don't have any specific questions. Explained the process pretty thoroughly.
Okay. Doug?
I understand this is the focus on the remediation. But I didn't catch what triggered the spill initially.
I don't recall. It was during the delivery.
It spilled right on the ground from
Yeah.
a truck and
Surface.
drained down to
Yeah,
that.
The tanks are up over here, and it flowed down.
I guess I'm just more curious about prevention of it happening again.
I think it was the, the driver wasn't paying attention,
Error.
and it, so they caught it for too long, but that was, I think, as I recall, that was what started it.
And frankly, everything worked. The drain caught the material.
Yeah.
It just, unfortunately, over the years, it's had some cracks in it, and it
Yeah.
went down, other than across the parking lots and into the stream.
The remediation plan sounds good to me.
Medial?
How long will that take to do this process?
So, the injection, hopefully we can get it in before it snow. There's no short answer. It depends on how everything works. At minimum, we have to sample 3/4 after the injection to show that it's working. So it'll be 9 months before we can attest that it has worked.
Oh, I see. So that was my next question, 9 months, okay, okay. All right,
That's minimum.
yeah, thank you.
Roger?
Are there any drinking water wells or irrigation wells within downstream that could possibly be affected?
Not that we know of.
But it's part of the GW2. It's it's part of a zone 2.
Zone
It's part of the zone 2, which is ultimately its tributary downstream to surface, to groundwater sources. But the zone 2 is, is quite expansive. But the way the regs read is if you're in any way, in an area that in any way is associated with drinking water, including the outer fringes of the zone 2, you have to clean up as if it were someone's well, right there on the property.
Yeah, but we don't know of any people that have drinking water, private drinking water wells or irrigation wells in that area.
Behind the site is it.
And that you run that through the Board of Health and Sewer and Water Commission?
I don't recall, I believe so, yeah. I don't recall exactly how.
It might be a good idea, just to, we don't know. What is the effect of the retention and all the products that you're using all mixed together? What would probably happen?
As far as,
Chemical reaction.
there's no real chemical reaction. Well, the carbon it's like a sponge. And the nitrates and sulfates are like fertilizer. And they're just for the bacteria, so it's usually anaerobic bacteria in the subsurface. So they have different nutrient pathways, and typically
I was here for that.
their
Came and, yeah.
growth and function is determined by what they're lacking, and often they're lacking these nutrients, so that they help biodegrade.
Okay, I have seen the pond there, the water level almost going over the top. And the flow rates, maximum, pressure on the culvert underneath.
Right.
And we hope that doesn't happen again, but it could, and particularly we don't know what these storms are going to give us and where we're going to be in the cycle of high water. And what would be the worst case scenario?
Worst case scenario.
Of a flood, you mean?
Yeah,
Actually, flooding would be good conditions because it would dilute anything that we put in way below. It's way below any threat level or toxicity level
Benchmark,
aquatically anyway. And it's not it doesn't affect human health.
But even if there were to be a flood overland, let's say the floodwaters came through the gas station.
yeah.
All this contamination is well below grade, so basically the floodwaters would just pass over, and then, recede, and I don't think it would have any effect at all on the contamination.
If anything, it would dilute it.
Right.
Okay, my one last question is, and I think I know the answer, but there'd be no impact, or what is worst case scenario, any impact on H&V downstream, which is the only one that I know of that may be used in the water.
Well, there really wouldn't be any, because the analysis that we did is basically looking at, low flow conditions right at the site. And those are, as I said, the drinking water standard, and it's really, it's a taste standard, it's not a public health one, is 250. And we're at less than 10% of that based on our conservative assumptions.
Okay.
But
Anything
the
else,
MCT calls us to looking at 500 feet for private wells, and I don't believe there are any within 500 feet of this site.
Good. Anything else, Rod? Betsy?
Yeah, I have a few questions. So the original incident was in February of 2018. So we're going on 2 years. Was there, I mean, so now you're scrambling with like a new way to deal with it because I guess things drifted further than you thought. Was there some sort of delay in what you were supposed to do right after February of 2018? So
The
that, so
only
that.
real delay was going through the notice of intent process. Had
With us.
NRCC or, no, I'm not saying you.
Oh, no, but it might have been.
It might have been.
We hold everything up.
But that going through the notice of intent process did take about 6 months. if I remember.
Okay, but still, was there some delay? Because I, as soon as we said, yeah, go ahead and do it, did you?
NRCC was on the project at that point in time, and yeah, pretty close to.
Okay.
Pretty close.
Because then, my second question is, if this somehow doesn't work, is excavating kind of extensively like the expensive third possibility?
Excavation, once you're
Like
below the water
getting
table.
all the stuff out, oh, yeah, sorry.
Once you're below the water table, you're not, we're dealing with dissolved constituents
Oh.
and not soil-borne
Oh,
constituents.
okay, okay,
So,
okay. All right. And then, 2 other questions. Because you seem to be, well, I don't know, maybe you're not so concerned about the sulfates. You're okay with it, but when you say the sulfates have a half-life, are they being converted to sulfides? So then you have sulfides? I think so.
Trying to remember, I did look at that in the past couple days, trying to educate and bring back my chemistry.
I think that is the case if they're being used as terminal electron acceptors.
I'm sorry?
I think that is the case. So it's just sort of interesting that, so I guess, would sulfides be of any concern?
From what I've read, the degradation products are of less concern. I mean,
Okay.
sulfate's not an immense concern, but the degradation products are of less concern.
Okay, because I was gonna say you could use just the nitrate and not the sulfate, and you'd still make the microbes happy, but,
well, sulfate does lend to certain bacterial
Yeah.
processes that make things.
yeah.
And sulfur seems to be a very common additive when you're looking at bioremediation. I'm not exactly sure why, but it's very common.
All right, I guess that's all the questions.
Well, when the project was before us, I asked for the operator of the fuel station, the gas station, to do some pickup of the trash that they generate that ends up on the bank of the brook and into the brook. I don't think they've made any attempt to do anything about that. I'd like somebody to prod them along and get them to pick up the stuff that goes into the brook that came from their operation.
Well, they're not an applicant, but I'll certainly ask them to. They're not applying for this permission, so all I can do is ask them.
Well, if you weren't doing it, they'd be shut down, so.
I don't think they'd be shut down.
Well,
That's.
gas stations do get shut down,
Sure,
so.
they get shut down, but I don't know of a cause right now. If you had an order for him to do something, I mean, he's not the applicant, the delivery company who made the delivery to the site is the real applicant.
Okay.
But we'll, to the extent we're able to, we'll
Give them,
put the screws to them
give them
to
that message.
clean up.
Yeah.
Anything else, Don?
No, that's all. I think that what they're doing is a great thing.
Okay. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Please, okay?
Jack,
Yeah.
I have a comment.
Yeah.
After this is all done, will there be any testing to show effectiveness?
Set up.
But yeah, we have to
Yep.
test for
And
nitrogen.
will we get that report?
If you would like it, sure. It's public record of the DEP,
Oh.
but yeah, I'll give you a copy.
Here's what I'm thinking. If this hopefully works, runs a successful course, and, you know, we see that it was truly effective, maybe, you know, God forbid if this were to happen again, maybe in the future, there'd be a way to expedite moving into this phase right after a spill, that it could be treated like this
There
more
is,
quickly.
Yeah, but typically on a spill, even with this product, what you have to do is knock down the concentration initially.
Yeah,
And that's usually done through our solution.
yeah.
And you've got to get it at a low enough point so that, for instance, the bacteria aren't killed by the concentrations that are in the groundwater. And so sometimes it's a number of steps. You might have to do excavation first, then you might have to do some peroxide or Fenton's reagent to knock it down farther, maybe even some NAPL recovery to take any free product out of there, sorry. But, yeah, it's a whole process. It can be a long process.
Also in terms of process from your side, there is, as I'm sure you know, under the state regs, I don't remember how your bylaws worded, but under the state regs, there are emergency certification provisions. Those are typically 30 days. State regs say that for this type of situation, an emergency certification is automatically valid for 30 days.
60, actually.
60 days, sorry,
Yeah.
30 days, normally 60, thank you. So in terms of process, that's something that's there.
Right, we're aware of that, and I've done that in the past. I
Yeah.
didn't think we held up the cleanup process at all,
I'm not
our,
saying you-
our notice.
No.
So, yeah, that,
No,
they
the
were definitely
that
instructed to
process
do
is-
what needed to be done immediately, so, yeah. It wasn't us that
No,
held up
it
the
wasn't
process.
you.
And-
But
and-
yeah, I mean, we've
and-
issued emergency certifications before.
And because it took a long time for the first time when some other folks did it, when Jeff's now in charge and had this issue, that's why he called me, because, you know, I understand your process, you know, in terms of filing the notice of intent and what's involved better than he does, and,
Now, I'm very familiar with their emergency certifications,
right.
and those can often be
Yeah, we are
followed up
too.
with notices of intent,
Right.
which we've both come in on.
The commission has issued them before for other instances.
Frankly, I was a little disappointed that the contractor didn't ask for one way up front. So I'm not blaming you.
Okay. Someone will make a motion to close the hearing?
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion, all in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained, 600. So we'll make a motion to accept the amendment to the order.
So moved.
Second?
Any further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. Okay,
Go do it.
yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
I think we have the person from the car wash.
Okay.
His Saying is your
Is it
car
a
wash.
good car wash? You wanna,
How are you?
good. And your name?
Stefan Fry.
Okay.
So I asked Mr. Fry to come in this evening. He is the owner
Yep.
of the car wash next to Watson's and next to the river. And the retaining wall in between the Watson property and the car wash, I guess, was compromised and it came partially down, I think, or I'll let you explain more. And then it was rebuilt with a block retaining wall. That area, the wall is within 100 feet of the wetlands and within 200 feet of the river. So he did provide a plan of the wall, not a site plan, just a diagram of the wall. But I informed him that even after the fact, the commission often will require notice of intents. So he wanted to come in, explain what has been done, and what he'd like to do. You want to explain a little more?
Sure.
Go for it.
So we have, the Watson's property line and my property line, we share obviously a property line, and there's, who knows how old it is, but it's an old timber retaining wall that was starting to fail, basically at the height of it, which is right at the turning radius where cars come behind the building and then they turn into the tunnel for the car wash. And we had a fence there for a long time, and that fence was getting basically pushed into that radius, and it was becoming dangerous, and it was getting worse and worse. So I basically worked with Virginia at Watson's Candy and said, look, this has got to get taken care of. It's an unsafe situation that needs to be made safe. So we built a precast concrete retaining wall, and then sloped it from her property line down into the retaining wall and put a screening down, and then riprap, which is big 3 to 5 inch rocks that you'll see like on the side of the highway and stuff like that. So I had no idea that this should have been done before I did that work, but nonetheless, we didn't come here beforehand, but we're here now, and just wanted to explain the situation. And again, it was really, to make an unsafe situation safe for not only my employees, but certainly our customers as well.
Okay. Anything else, Landis?
No, I guess if you're satisfied with his explanation, or if you feel that he needs to file a notice of intent, we don't have a site plan or anything about the wall, or is the wall gonna remain the way it is now?
Yeah, there's
Not gonna
one
go
last piece of the puzzle
up
is
to the original height?
what's that?
It's not gonna go up to the original height?
No, it's back to about the original
Oh, it
height of the
is?
wall. Anyway, it was sloped down into the wall. Yeah, it's just it was a timber retaining wall which is basically built in steps, and it comes forward as it goes down. This is obviously completely vertical, and we have 3 blocks, which is just under 6 feet at the height, and then it goes down to 2 blocks closer towards Main Street. So.
Okay, Doug, any questions?
I don't have any questions.
Media? Roger?
Is there a fence gonna be on top so people who are driving up there or walking up there
Yeah,
won't fall in?
the last piece of the puzzle is the guardrail that's getting put up. It's
That hasn't been put in yet, has it?
no, not yet. We're getting that up in the next week or so. We should have the stock by tomorrow or Friday.
You don't think you get much done tomorrow?
No. But yeah, there's a timber guardrail that's going up on Watson's, right behind the parking spaces that go towards the wall.
Anything else, Roger? Roger, anything else? Betsy?
Yeah, I have a question. So has this car wash recently changed hands?
I bought it for about 5 years ago, yep.
Because when did they come before us? Because this same car wash was before us, I think within 5 years. Because I know we had a great big discussion.
More than 5
It
years.
was more than
but-
5 years? Okay,
But it
just.
was a big discussion.
Not since
Big
I've owned it,
discussion, and there
right.
was trash down the hillside into the
Yeah.
river, et cetera. That's why it's sort of in, okay. So this is,
The filing that I have here
Yeah.
is 2004.
oh, goodness.
But I
it's a
think
long
there
time
was
ago.
there was a enforcement letter, earlier
Subsequently? No.
than
earlier.
that.
Okay.
For all the trash and stuff that was on the other side of
Oh,
the
yeah.
fence.
All right, so that was my main question,
And
just
the
wondering, like,
drainage.
if it was the same owner from last time, then I would say that you do know about the role from before us. So I guess no further.
You should
comment.
know anyways.
Al?
but-
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, since this is a new owner, I wonder, are you aware that you have obligations on the other side of that property to maintain stormwater flow from your operation into the Neponset River? And this old railroad tie wall was constructed when this was previous use, so it's more than 20 or 30 years old. And there used to be a lot of trees and shrubs and stuff growing there holding the bank. And then when the car wash took over, they needed the space, so they cut down the stuff that was holding the bank up.
Yeah, I think that was probably the
And
worst thing that could have happened,
yeah,
was cutting
okay,
those
so-
trees down, yeah.
So that's the transition that went on there, and probably this wall should have been put in when the site was designed to be the car wash that it is today. But, you know, there was a gas station there that had a contamination in the ground, and that was cleaned up. And eventually evolved into this car wash, because nobody wanted to deal with the background and the remnants of the problems from the gas station. Okay, so my only concern with this wall is, did you have a responsible party install it so that it has a foundation and it isn't gonna move like the previous one did? Because I have seen these concrete block walls move, and I just wonder if it's sitting properly so that it's
Yeah.
not going to move.
Yeah, Dolan, Scott Dolan, Dolan and Company is his company. Excavating landscaping company did the work and crushed gravel underneath, and it's very well built,
Okay,
sturdy.
that was my concern, that
It wasn't me, I didn't do it.
wasn't just a temporary
No,
fix, because, you know, I know that site, that's been a problem there for the last 50 years or more. So that's, I don't have a problem with it getting done, but the fence on the top, you know, any wall or fence, deck, thing that's more than like 3 feet high has to have a fence on the top to keep people from falling over and breaking their leg or whatever they break when they fall over from a deck or a wall. So you have created a liability there, so the fix to the liability is that you have to have something at the top to keep people from falling over. And the building inspector's office usually gets on people for that.
Yep.
Okay, that's my only.
The, look like, your sketch shows it to be a 10-foot slope for the riprap. with a rise of 2 feet 6 inches. Just going by, it looks like it's less than a 10-foot. Is this sketch accurately depict what is there?
I'm not sure I understand where do you mean 10 feet? Because maybe that's 10 feet from my grade to the top, the very height of Watson's Candy side.
Basically, it's the parking lot at Watson's to the top of the wall. And I guess then where is the property line?
No, that's 10 feet going from the
Horizontal.
back of the wall
Yeah.
to,
Horizontal.
yeah, oh, okay, I
Right.
thought you meant vertically, okay.
No, you got a 2,
Yep, so the,
2.5 feet rise on the, it just,
right,
from driving by, it looks like it's less than 10 feet. It looks like it may be a steeper slope than you have there, and I'm just wondering if this it's been stamped by an engineer, so is this, I assume then that is accurate of the...
yeah, I mean, I am assuming it's accurate as well. We did have this done by an engineer, and Dolan followed the plans as drawn, so.
And where is the property line between you and your neighbor, the Watsons?
It's somewhere in between that slope, the top of her wall, top of her property, and the back of the wall. It's sort of like
So on that, in that
between
riprap is
Yeah.
the property line.
somewhere in there.
Okay, that was an issue that, in looking this over, as to, you know, who owns what, for future reference.
Yep.
I don't know,
I
Well,
think
we-
he owns the wall.
We have a legal agreement, Watson's Candy and I, that I agreed to, regardless of whose property line it is, if it goes on both, that I paid for the wall.
yeah, are you, you run this through the building inspector's
Yes.
office? And he's satisfied with what you've done?
Yes. And again, I still have to do the guardrail, but that'll be up.
Okay. Would be helpful, I guess, that we have something on our file that shows that a guardrail is being provided.
Do you have the plan,
don't-
plan that shows the guardrail, or no?
No,
Whatever you provided, you dropped off.
That was
in our
probably,
office.
that was the first rendition. This one
Okay.
actually shows the guardrail. You can keep this.
And also, this is the as-built plan from back in 2004, which I have multiple copies of, so you're welcome to take one of these.
Oh,
And it-
think,
And it does show the gas and oil separator, and there's the gas filter, and the catch basin that discharges out to the river. So, which all should be maintained.
yep. Yeah, we do, we regularly have, through Clean Harbors, I think it is. Come and-
Okay.
Yeah.
this one?
And then I have a follow-up question.
Right, because I think the last enforcement, it was because there was, like I think I had mentioned to you, there was concern that some of the soapy water that was not necessarily coming out with the cars was going down into that catch basin, so.
Yeah, so I have one employee that has been with me and also with the previous owner, and he said that before me, that's why that trench drain was put in,
Right.
just behind where the cars pull
Yep.
in.
To catch,
Yeah,
to catch this.
To catch the soap,
water.
yeah.
So that should just be monitored, make sure that nothing is escaping,
Okay.
because that goes directly into the Napontet.
Okay.
So I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
By the way, I thought there was a fence that went along this entire back.
Yeah.
That I'm not quite seeing here. For what it's worth, that white fence.
It's there.
Okay.
It's
no, but
definitely
not-
there, no, it's the
Well,
stockade
but it only goes
fence.
a short
Oh, but the
way.
line doesn't really continue, but
that's what I mean.
it does
Okay.
continue.
I'm wondering what, because I was looking for a particular thing on the fence. I'm just wondering since it has changed hands, you know, in the last 5 years, and it could change hands in 10 years, whether we need a few plaques on the fence, just to kind of acknowledge
A what?
for future, what we call plaques, that say, that no work beyond such and such a point, or this is, it could even be something specialized for the fact that it's on the Neponset River, because we don't always deal with that. I'm just wondering if, on that white fence, something informative. And that's,
That's up to you guys. I mean, it has been, I think I told you, you know, there really can't be stuff stockpiled behind the fence, and you cleaned it up,
We
so.
did, yeah.
I think what Betsy is saying, that perhaps there should be a sign that says no. I mean, usually what we have is signs that says no dumping or alteration beyond this point, but
Right.
something similar to that to
Right.
remind people not to.
since it is the Neponset
Stockpile
River, and
stuff
since,
back
and since you have a lot of employees, and they haven't been there for, if we were talking about this right now, if this were a newly permitted car wash, we would have some sort of plaques or signs.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think
to me,
that's a
it
good
seems
idea.
like the issue arose because you weren't sure what the situation was when you're that close to the Neponset River.
And if you have this plan, I mean, so it
Not oppo-
shows
I'm not
the
opposed to it by any means.
100-foot buffer zone and the 200-foot riverfront area that the whole site is within, so anything that happens on the site involving excavation, fill, removal of vegetation would be under the jurisdiction of the commission.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So people agree with me or not?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good idea. The other thing, if there would be some notation on the, that the property line, if it's exact, or that it is midway between, on that slope, your property line, just so we know who's who for any future issues. Because I don't know how long you may be the owner of the property, and then who comes next, and
Yeah.
down the road, which is what we looked at here, as to where is who actually owns the fence that collapsed, because it doesn't really. I
Yeah,
think
it's not shown on the
not shown
as-built,
that
and it's
well on
not
here.
clear on the proposed plan that we have.
So, just to avoid, just to clarify that issue on the, I think would be beneficial. The question came up, should Mr. Fry file a notice of intent after the fact that this is done?
I'd rather see the signs and plaques.
I think, basically the work that was done, and I think, I don't know if you had a chance to look at it closely,
Yeah, I mean,
and you're satisfied with what was
it
done?
seems to be okay.
I think we can consider it as property maintenance.
Yeah.
It's
Uh,
property.
So I think instead of requiring a notice of intent after the fact, that there should have been one to begin with, but understanding the situation, and the work has been done in an appropriate manner, so that there has not been any adverse effect to the resource area. I think with the installation, we'll give you a wording of what plaques that we do. The wording for the plaques is up to you to put them on the fence post. I would say 3 of them across the back. How long is that? What's the scale? Scale here someplace.
Like 125 to 140 feet.
Here,
Okay. One's just 20 feet, so we've got about 150 feet across the back. So I think 3 of them sound reasonable.
Yeah,
Okay, one on each end on the corner and then one in the middle.
Sure. Is this a plaque that you guys have and supply, or how
We
how
have
does it
the
work?
wording for it, and you have to get you want a brass plaque that will stand up to the weather.
Okay.
You know, not a cardboard sign, it's permanent.
Okay. aluminum sign okay? Is that something that we
Um,
could?
Most people we usually specify, brass or environmental plastic, outdoor plastic that
Okay.
will withstand the elements.
Something that, the sign folks in Walpole can do, right? Right there off
Probably,
of
yeah.
27? Okay.
Okay,
Okay,
And
so
so-
the three signs you wanted, and how did you want the property line indicated on the,
on this.
Profile
Yeah,
drawing?
some, either a notation or a line that on the,
I mean, I can have them put approximate, but I
that's
can't.
just where,
yeah.
just so it's, who owns the wall? Basically, you're saying it's in between the wall
Yeah,
and the parking lot, top of the wall. There's something in there so that this means you have, your property owns the wall, okay? For whatever needs to be done, and I think, and if it doesn't, I'm not asking you to get it surveyed, but if that's where, what it is, then midway, approximately midway on the slope.
Yeah.
I think a note on that drawing would,
Yeah.
would cover that,
Okay.
okay? And I think you need to run that by the engineer who stamped this to make sure that he also is aware of it and doesn't have any problem with that notation.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so someone want to make that motion that we have agreed that the notice of intent is not required and the
So moved.
owner will install the plaques and modify this drawing to show the property line.
A second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. Good, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Landis, can I follow up with you to grab that language, or are you?
Yeah, I was just looking to see if sometimes we have the detail.
Yeah, we should have, when we dealt with the car wash, we should have dealt with that wall at the same time.
I guess, yeah, I guess.
Yeah.
You know, in retrospect.
At
Because
that point, the wall was okay.
No, it was,
Yeah,
it
and
was,
actually, we didn't want them messing with the bank and all.
well, it wasn't a stable bank and it was,
Okay, this, which one's this? This is the one we did. Conservation Commission public hearing in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, Town of Walpole Wetlands Protection Bylaw. Notice hereby given the intent of George Almacari construct a three-car garage over the existing driveway at 23 Old Town Road in Walpole. Excuse me. Plans are filed with the Conservation Commission office. Public hearing on the above matter will be held Room 112, Walpole Town Hall, 135 School Street, October 9th, 2019, beginning 7:15 PM. All interested persons request to be present. And the hearing was opened and continued. Let's see what we have here. This was, this is from
They're asking for a continuance.
the applicant, this is from Bruce Wilson, who was
The engineer.
the engineer. Letter dated October 30th. Was not able to get the wetland consultant out to the site yet. Please continue our hearing process so that I can get the updated lines. So, what do we got? Next meeting, we have November 13th. We have a 7 o'clock. So what do you want to make that, 7:15?
Yeah.
7:15, 23 Old Town Road. Does someone want to make that a motion to continue this till 7:15 on
I'll move that.
November 13th? Okay.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed,
Aye.
abstained, 600. Okay. All right. Do we read anything in on this?
You what?
Read in, since we
No, because
closed
the
the
public,
hearing?
the public hearing is closed, so it's just a
Okay,
discussion about the issuance.
just to refresh everybody's memory. We closed this hearing at our last meeting, and we have to decide what we're going to do. We have an extension, granted an extension of what, 21 days from the applicant, so we need to decide what action we're gonna take. So, I guess the,
This is a full set if anyone wants to look at that. I also have a full set if anyone
This
wants to look
the-
at it.
is this the new updated set?
Yeah, I think Amy passed out
Smaller
smaller
version.
versions. This is a full-scale version, this is a full-scale version.
Okay. I guess the question we need to decide is, do we have sufficient information to write an order of conditions with any limitations, or basically, has the applicant met the standards that are required for us to write an order of conditions? So, open it up. You want to make any comments, Landis, or we just ask?
I think Jack just, put that out, what we've been talking about, you know, this whole time, this whole process, that there's been some discussion, you know, about different aspects of the project, different performance standards, the riverfront area, the degraded area, the buffer zones. So it's, at this point, it's, you just need to make a decision if you're satisfied that all performance standards have been met and that you can condition the project based on the information that was provided, or if some portion of the project, they didn't meet the performance standards, that you don't feel you can condition the project. Or I think the other option was if you didn't get enough information to render decisions. So I think that our last meeting, we had quite a bit of discussion of the degraded area and the value of the degraded area versus the restoration. If the commission felt that the applicant was providing enough benefit to what is being left, the riverfront area that's being left with the restoration, and the restoration of the 25-foot no alteration, and removing the bad stuff that was there. So it seemed like some commissioners felt that that was a benefit as was provided.
Well, let's just take one question at a time. Do we feel that we have have been presented sufficient information on this project? So let's just cover that issue. Doug, you have any?
I can't think of any more information that I need.
Okay. Video? Roger?
I'm still concerned about the sewer line and the water line as it goes on Pickle Brook out to Union Street.
Concerned in that we didn't get enough information?
I'm concerned of how they're going to actually do that so they don't affect Pickle Brook at all.
I think we had, if we get to that point, I think we have noted for an order conditions on some notes on that to
Okay,
be monitored. And a professional engineer, is that what we had in there, to be on site during that process.
okay, well then that's been addressed.
Okay.
I don't recall everything, though I asked.
Okay, Betsy?
I think I'm convinced that the drainage, is going to be okay, because we went to the trouble of having a consultant confirm that and go over it. I like the project's pulled back and made a little smaller. We're limited to what we can do legally, and so I think that we're within the bounds of what we can actually
Okay,
allow to happen, so I.
feel we've had,
Yeah.
okay, Al, you feel we've gotten sufficient information from the applicant?
Well, I hate to do it, but I'm still concerned about excavating a trench next to the brook, and there isn't anything that, on the plan that indicates how they can do that without the brook collapsing into the trench. You know,
Okay,
uh,
what,
that's my big hang-up
Right.
with the entire project.
okay, what we did, have you got the, how did we word this?
Is there a
Uh,
page
took-
on it?
I know
I
that,
talked
I know
with,
that they got an agreement with the sewer and water department to move the pipes closer together. I know that, and that's a good thing, but, I don't know whether they, a trench box, is adequate. I don't know, whether they need to do something else, like driving, sheet piling in between the trench and the brook, or whatever.
let's see, I thought, did we, okay, utility work. Okay,
Oh,
during
okay.
this is, the way it is worded presently. During utility construction in the area of Pickerel Brook, a registered professional engineer shall be on site specifically to observe and direct construction in terms of the stability of the bank to Pickerel Brook. If the engineer observes a threat to the stability of the bank or any other area associated with Pickerel Brook, then immediate action, including stopping the activity, shall occur to stop the observed threat. Engineer shall notify DPW, conservation agent, town engineer immediately the event and follow up the notification with written description of the event and actions taken.
Okay, so,
Did
so
you-
I haven't seen that before.
No, this
Well,
is
that's
just,
the
yeah,
question,
okay,
can
yeah.
it be conditioned?
Okay.
If we can put conditions in it to safeguard it, then.
And I
then you
want to
can-
add to that condition that the environmental scientist be there as well as the engineer.
so you
Because an
want,
engineer's viewpoint is quite often different than an environmental person's viewpoint.
What's the title of that? What's their, not just an environmental person, what's the, an LSP?
Licensed site professional? Isn't that what that is?
Is that
They're
what you're
not
looking at?
necessarily,
They're looking for contamination, though. Are you talking
Oh.
about like a wetlands specialist or a
Yeah.
McManus, which is
Yeah,
both, I
okay,
believe, so.
okay.
We can put a
Okay,
McManus needs to be
okay,
there.
but McManus, you know.
Well, I don't know if we can dictate who we can
Who,
hire and
can't
who
have
we
a-
cannot,
but
but we could
whatever
say
he
a
is,
wetlands specialist.
Wetlands
All right, so we
specialist.
want professional engineer and
Wetlands specialist.
Yeah,
wetland specialist.
So it's sounding like it's heading towards conditioning. I did do a draft order that I have copies for everyone that,
I just.
So I think we can condition it. I just want to make sure that we have a strong enough condition there that it's going to
Well,
solve the
this is what
problem.
we
Yeah.
did, what,
I
well,
heard you.
Landis and I
Yeah.
had decided if we get to that point, we should have something
Yeah.
ready, so
And-
that
and that
this was
with
part of the discussion.
addition that you just
Okay.
included solves the problem.
All right, what I'm just thinking, during the construction,
can we hand those out to everyone else, or?
Pass me back. I'm just thinking we should add, who else is gonna be here, the engineer, and notification, do we want notification to the agent?
Yeah, it's a Landis, yeah.
Oh, prior to, during the
Of
utility.
of this, construction activity, when it's gonna occur, so how do we word that? Notify conservation agent, when this construction activity will occur,
48 hours
okay, 48 hours
prior to.
prior to construction activity? Prior to this construction activity? Is that, will that do it?
Sorry.
Okay, does
This,
that sound all right?
you're referring to this construction activity of the,
This,
Yeah, maybe it was
Pickerel
installation
Brook
of,
utility.
installation of utilities.
it's on page 8, under utility work, it's on number 57, was where we are looking at. So we're gonna add to Article 57, after, on the first line, it says, registered professional engineer and wetland specialist shall be on site specifically to observe direct construction terms of stability of the bank to Pickerel Brook. Notify the conservation agent 48 hours prior to this construction activity. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. All right. So I think basically we're agreeing that the information provided by the applicant is is sufficient to write and order conditions for this site,
Yeah, I think
for
so.
this application.
You
So
know-
is that, are we in agreement on that?
Yep.
Okay.
You know, when I look at this project, I see an area that has had problems. It's been used, it's redevelopment. And one of the things that we've accomplished is we will have all the bad stuff removed. We will improve the stormwater system over what is there today. And we have removed a house or an apartment or whatever building that was closer to the closest resident on Union Street and pushed that back. And in exchange for that, we have put it on an area that is some kind of a question as to who calls it degraded. I call it degraded because it's not natural soils. It looks like the soils were burned and part of sand and stuff from an old foundry, but since stuff grows in it, some people think it's okay. But to me, I wouldn't want that in my backyard. And I suppose in that case, we made a trade, and, well, I don't know whether it's important or not, but we removed it from an area that was in question. We
Okay.
don't have to like the fact that there's gonna be this number of condos or apartments. We don't have to like that, but we do have to look at whether the stormwater and the runoff from the site is gonna be cleaner than it was, and that the brook is still stable when it's done, and still flowing, the water that comes from the Bird Park Trustees of Reservations property, and that it doesn't increase the flooding downstream from that. So I think that if we can condition it with conditions that are not vague and that do the job, I think we don't have much choice here.
Okay. Landis has put together this order. Do you want to review this now, right now? We need to vote
Yeah.
on it,
I'd like-
so
Yeah, yes, I'd like to
you
review
want to
it.
go through it? Okay. Basically, where do we start?
Right, so the first part, the finding,
Everybody get on page 1?
Mhm.
so what I did here was one to note that the resource areas had been delineated in previous notes in time. And then also just give a little description of the process that the Conservation Commission went through and how I was interpreting what you would eventually, well, if you decided to approve the project and issue the order of conditions. So that, you should read the findings part, the 3 paragraphs at the beginning, and just make sure that it does summarize what the commission wants in there regarding the process. Because I think it is important of how you came to the decisions that you appear to be making tonight.
Let me just take a couple of minutes and just look at the findings and see if you have any questions or comments. Anybody got any questions? Comments? So, good as is? Okay. Under special conditions, a lot of these are standard, right? Where do you,
Yeah, let's just look at the ones that are not standard.
Okay.
where do you begin?
Where do we begin? So, yeah, a lot of them are standard conditions.
Okay, I would say,
So maybe restoration and plantings.
yeah, so we're on
Page 4.
page 4. Restoration and plantings.
So I tried to customize conditions that would, address the plantings and how they should be done and that they should be done.
I think, again, this is something that, information-wise, the applicant provided quite a bit of information on this, and Landis has incorporated what
I think
in writing plus what shows on the plan. Wasn't there a planning plan on one of these?
There was a plan. The only additional information that is a condition is to have number 21. So that the supplement D plan should be revised to identify the areas of invasive species management and a more detailed species-specific invasive species, that's a lot of species, control plan shall be provided for the initial vegetation removal and a long-term control plan, including methods used for control, frequency of inspection and treatments, and reporting to commissions. The Oxbow report actually says that there should be more of a detailed management plan in what they submitted. So this says that as well, that the Oxbow plan wasn't really detailed about what they were gonna go in there and take out, how they were gonna take it out, how long they were gonna do this. I mean, usually invasive species plan, it goes on for
Sure.
a while.
So that hasn't been,
Committed to.
that hasn't been done yet, shall
They
be.
need, they should submit that before the project starts.
Okay, so let's,
I'd like
Go
you to look
through.
at number 24.
what do we got here?
Okay. This is one of the things that I'm having a problem with elsewhere. 4 to 6 feet, okay. Where do you measure that 4 to 6 feet? It doesn't say. Do you count,
So I took
do you
that
count the,
from
yeah, I know,
New England, the New
but do you
England.
count the soil ball as part of the 4 to 6 feet? Or do you count the part that's gonna be above the ground, when it's planted as the 4 to 6 feet? And this is something that landscape contractors hassle over, because if they count the root ball or the container in that 4 to 6 feet,
No, I
then
would-
it's
It should be above ground.
putting it-
What'd you
He
think?
wants to have wording put in, but I get that point, so that.
I
so
wanna
there's
make
some
sure
more-
that
Specific.
somebody can't say that the,
Well, how do we want it? Is there, a-
So how do you think New England nursery, which is sort of the premier nursery for wetlands plants, that's what I.
I've seen specifications that call for 3 feet above the ground at your waist level as where you start the measurement. So
Well, they just have
it's-
sizes. You
yeah.
can buy this size, this size, or this
yeah,
size.
okay.
And one of the size was.
So I
this
don't wanna
size.
leave it up to the contractor
Yeah,
to
no,
pick the lesser.
Because I think that this, what they're specifying on the plan is much smaller.
How were they
It's like
sold?
very
If I
teeny.
asked for a 6 foot, how are they sold? If I asked for a 6 foot, how do they measure it? Where they,
What's the industry standard?
right. If I go to a store and want a 6 foot, how?
Depends on the store,
There's no
because
standard.
some people
There is
will start the measurement at the ground level,
Yeah,
and some people will count the measurement as it's sitting on the parking
So what
lot.
wording would you like? Suggest
what should it
wording.
be?
Something that indicate the measurement is the part that's gonna be above
Okay,
ground.
so what we got is,
level.
basically, your root ball's gonna be about a foot.
Sometimes it's 2 feet.
Let him just say above ground level, and then we're done.
yeah, at ground,
That
from
one.
ground level.
Got to specify that the measurement of the plant should be at ground level and not at the ball level.
Okay, so minimum of 4 to 6 feet
Thank
in
you.
size measured from ground level,
Yeah.
okay, and added that in there?
Yep.
Okay. Measured from ground level.
'Cause the specification that was on the plan was for 1.5 caliber, 1.5 inches.
Okay, 1.5 inch caliper is the size of the stem
Yeah,
at a certain distance up from the
Right,
ground.
no, that's a very small
Yeah.
tree.
Yeah.
I
But
didn't think
but
that that was sufficient.
depends on who you talk to. Some growers will tell you that the younger tree that's 1.5 inches will grow faster and stronger than the older one that's bigger.
So do you think, is
Well-
it worth just sticking with their specs, or
Yeah,
is it
I think-
worth putting in
Well-
a larger tree?
well, what we've got now is 4 to 6 feet in height,
Height.
Which is-
measured from ground level.
Yeah,
Which
so-
is different from their specs, that's why I'm asking. So
Okay.
I
So that's what-
thought the specs was a really small tree.
Well, we just planted 45 apple trees in Norwood, okay? And the specs for those are 1 year's growth above ground, okay? And some of those were 3 feet long when we got them, and some of them were only a foot or 18 inches. And it depends on the variety of tree and the.
Well, it was red maple.
Well, let's just leave it. We gotta,
Yeah.
we're
So
gonna,
leave
we're
it-
going by
Measured
the
above
height.
ground, yeah.
Okay,
above-
that's what
above
I'm just,
ground.
I wanna hear,
It's
wanna
fine.
hear from Al, because I don't have as much knowledge of tree growth as he does, and if
Yeah,
we're changing
so-
their specs,
So
it should be
let's
based
just
on
make sure
reasoning.
that the measurement starts at the
Okay.
ground
From
level.
ground level,
All right,
measured from ground level. Just add that,
yeah.
measured from ground level.
Yeah,
Okay, anything else on this page?
When you talk about the waste materials that are being removed, do
Where are you?
27? Do we track where they take that to? We're removing waste materials, but who tracks where they dump that next?
Good question. I think in the past we have said wording such as a appropriate location or a,
Well, if it's hazardous waste, then that needs to go to
then,
a
right, then I have to
facility.
go. It has to
DEP
go.
probably has,
Waste
Uh,
material, like, you know, it doesn't have, if it's concrete or something, doesn't have to go to a,
yeah.
Who's gonna reprocess the concrete?
So,
yeah, that's right.
so do we need to add anything here?
Well,
Do you have a s-
he's already had an
He's
LSP on the
had-
site dealing with the contamination. But some of these materials are not considered contamination, but they're waste as far as he's concerned, because you wouldn't want those to plant the lawn on. So they can be used under the driveways and under the roadway.
Oh, I think he did say that, didn't he?
Yeah,
He was gonna.
yeah.
Well, we
So-
did, we have that someplace in here that it
Parking
can,
areas.
we have that?
Yeah, somewhere.
We did include that it could, degraded material that's on site could be used if it's under a pavement.
Yeah,
It's like a capped landfill.
Yeah. sealing it, yeah.
Sidewalk or parking lot or,
Yeah.
but not used as backfill. Now, where did that go? We had it in here.
Okay, well,
You find it?
I'm okay. I should have highlighted the ones I knew we were gonna talk about.
Well, number 46, does that contradict something? All waste material shall be removed from the entire site and disposed of in an appropriate manner? Or
Okay.
is appropriate manner understood?
No, that's not what that's, um,
Pruning and grass clippings and.
Is that what
and
that
lea-
is?
Leaves could be considered waste
well,
materials.
it's waste material.
Oh, so
Yeah.
that's what that means in that context.
Well-
Under grading landscaping,
Okay, or we can also refer here to see number 46. Which one were we
If
at?
it's relevant, maybe it isn't.
Waste materials, 27. We can add C, number 46, for proper disposal.
What are you doing, John?
Right, look at number 46.
Okay, all waste material.
Okay,
I
shall
think
be
I was
removed from the
referring to-
entire site and disposed of in an approved manner.
I
All
think
right.
you mean
So
grass
now-
and leaves, don't you?
Well, no, it doesn't matter.
No?
When you have this,
No, because
all
they,
waste material.
they they reference the coal ash and the
Oh.
concrete and all that stuff as waste
Okay.
material.
Okay.
So it could be in parentheses or
Well,
somewhere
you say-
defining what waste material is.
Well, we don't have to define it.
Okay.
It's a waste material, right? And then on 27, we say C number 46 for disposal. Okay? So we're referring back to that one, that'll be done in an approved manner. Is that all right? And we still haven't found the other,
I know what happened to that one.
Well, number 15 has to do with waste materials too. Number 50,
Oh, yeah.
which one?
Oh, that's,
50 or
50,
50?
50.
No existing waste material.
yeah, according to local, state, and federal law and regulations. So that might,
Yeah, okay, so on that one that we just were looking at, see number 46 and 50?
mhm, yeah,
See, on 27. See number 46 and 50 for disposal. Okay, now we're gonna find that in here someplace.
So are you combining those, or what are you doing with those?
We're just referring to them, leaving them in, just referring to, on
Okay.
27, we're referring to 46 and 50. Okay? Instead of,
I'm sure Jack, did that get deleted by accident? Is it according
okay, then let's,
On 54, if they have a spill, they're to notify the fire department. Let's say it's hydraulic oil, and they contact the fire department and said, we just spilled hydraulic oil. Is the fire department likely to say, we're not overly concerned about the flammability of that?
No, but they,
But will they report it to us? that
they
it-
have jurisdiction over that.
Okay, but is there
And they-
follow-up? What do
And
they,
they go and they install a boom around it.
okay, so the fire department has a procedure that
Yeah,
they,
they-
okay,
That's one of the,
okay,
Thing.
good.
okay. They
Well,
brought it.
that, maybe it was supposed to be in 46, so that all waste materials shall be
Right,
removed
what's
from
it?
the site and disposed of.
Okay, and,
All waste material other than
okay, the,
what is used
well,
under pavement, what,
no, we want to say the, degraded, is that
Are there
soil?
two
Are we
cat-
calling that soil?
they classify it as waste material, that's
Okay.
why I
The
use that, so
De-
we
okay,
could
the
maybe
waste material, well, but there can be other
define
waste.
it first.
there's two categories.
Right, that's what I'm saying, is perhaps we should define.
The
that.
excavated waste material. That, do it, excavated waste material?
It seems like there's two categories. That waste material that is very stable, that could be ground up to used under a road or a
Okay.
sidewalk, versus waste material that you don't wanna put under there. You're giving me a look on this, is that not right? Like a tire or something.
Yeah.
Or pile of bulk wood or something.
52 talks about putting waste material under, below paved surfaces.
Okay,
Right.
so on their
you're
plan,
right, you're right.
supplement, they are saying all waste material, ash, metal, and other non-natural debris. So my use of waste material
Yeah.
was referencing what they were calling waste material,
Okay.
which they were to remove.
And look at 52, because Doug just
Yeah.
found something.
So if there's another,
There
if you're
is.
thinking of other waste
Okay.
material, then we should first define the waste material that's referenced on the plan that they're saying they will
Yeah,
remove.
here,
What you
here's,
call-
And
we've
then
got,
use another word for something else.
well, we've got this covered. On 52, it says, waste material other than that which is below paved surfaces. Only clean fill, 52, only clean fill should be used on the site. It is clean soil, free of masonry stumps, asphalt, coal ash, or waste material, other than that which is below paved surfaces. 52. So that,
That covers that.
we know what it means now. Is it gonna make sense? Doesn't it? We know what we think it means. But that does, that's the one we're looking for, that it can be used under paved surfaces. Think we're all right? Okay, all right, so we
Yeah,
got
so
that.
even at 27, where I have waste material in
Yeah.
parentheses, and it being what is being removed in the
Right.
degraded area. So is that clear?
Yeah. Well, that's just specific to the riverfront area and the floodplain. Article 27. Okay,
60 refers to construction debris being removed, but that implies it's materials that they've brought on there and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah.
done with. Pieces of wood or
Because,
whatever
yeah.
is
okay.
construction debris.
Yep.
All right. Okay, are we okay then through that category? What is this one? Restoration of plantings, we all done with that? That covers page 4 and 5. Page 6 is erosion control. Any issues there?
Yeah, I'm
Okay.
thinking maybe you don't even need 46, because that's really covered in 50.
Well, it
leave
doesn't
it,
do any
just
harm,
leave it.
doesn't do any harm to have it.
Well, I just don't want it to be confusing.
I understand what it means.
Is there any stipulation that if something or other is not being done to satisfaction, that things are to come to a halt? Does it actually come up?
Things are
That
come
work,
to a
work,
halt.
just
You'd
to
have
come
How do
to
you
a
put a
halt.
stop to it if you
You'd
see
have to
something?
do a stop work order, which
So it's not in
gets,
here?
that gets tricky, and you gotta be very careful with that as,
Where's
stopping
the
work,
whole-
cause that, whole, something that's not involved with this, to stop work on the whole project, it could get sticky and not, I don't, you'd have to be very careful before you say,
So
stop work.
Seven is, it is the responsibility of the applicant and owner, and says to ensure that all conditions of this order of conditions are complied with. And the DEP conditions basically also say that you have to comply with all of the conditions, or
Or what are the consequences?
or work associated with the resource area, and the conditions can be stopped until it's satisfactory, in compliance.
In that area.
Actual DEP, conditions.
Yeah,
say
I mean,
that.
in that area that we have jurisdiction
but-
over.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
conditions.
you can't
yeah,
stop
I
the
mean-
job.
Right, well, this
Yeah.
just covers what we have jurisdiction over, so, yes, it does say that in the DEP condition.
All right, so let's, finish,
which
anybody
these
have
are in
anything
addition to the conditions.
from erosion control? takes us over to page 7 to grading and landscaping. Anything on there? We've already gone over some of this. On construction management, anything else that we need to cover here? Okay, post-construction, page 9. All right with that. Stormwater management. We got anything on that? Okay. All right, anything on page 11? We must have plaques on here, don't we? On the drawings?
I don't know if we do.
Speaking of, they show up on there?
If we did,
No,
it
I
might be a
think-
detail.
But we did do because, well, we can put them in the order, but the comments that went to the zoning board of appeals included signage, to go with a comprehensive permit as something that it would have normally been covered under our bylaw.
So is that sufficient? Okay.
Cause you usually put the plaques to not disturb the 25-foot no alteration area, which is a bylaw
Which is a
requirement.
bylaw, yeah.
Even though we're,
Well,
I think we've
yeah.
made the connection that
Yeah.
that the commission considered the restoration to 25 feet from the wetlands important to the benefit of the wetlands and watershed of
Yeah, we
Cockrell
couldn't put
Brook.
it, we couldn't put it on a 25-foot zone, because it's not,
Using the term more 25 feet from the wetlands.
yeah.
Well, you know,
But then hereafter, no one should be dumping leaves or snow or,
But I think we'd have to use the property line. I don't think we could put it,
why not? It's a riverfront, but I don't know.
Yeah, the
Well,
riverfront is
Yeah, the
100 or
the-
200.
again, on the other, once this is done, if there's any activity in that area that then would come under our jurisdiction, wouldn't it? Once this project is completed?
sure, yeah, in the resource
Yeah,
areas.
so if there's any activity in the resource area, then we could bring that up at that time.
I just always looked, the plaques was
Yeah.
more something that was sort of
New bylaw.
covered more under the
Yeah.
bylaw because of
Okay.
the sort of taking
Okay.
over part of the jurisdiction of the buffer zone, which is not included in the wetlands protection. But those comments, and I believe our opinion, recommendations of conditions are being incorporated into
Mm.
the comprehensive permit.
And you can get rid of page 12?
Get rid of page 12. Do we have a page 12?
Okay, so you would delete
Unless
that?
you have any write-ins, then
No, I didn't
Page
see anything
12
else.
to write.
Yeah.
write additional.
Anybody have anything else they want
Concerns
to bring up at this point? Roger?
Do we have anything about snow removal and fertilizers?
There
There's
is some in the
There's some
fertilizers.
fertilizer. I don't know what they
No,
show.
there's something, I'm not sure where I saw it.
Yeah, I did
It's
see
in
that
there.
somewhere too.
Fertilizers under the perpetual, number
Conditions.
81.
Snow removal, what's the,
Yeah, there should be something on snow removal.
I thought they had something on the
Right, so they,
drawing.
they did a snow removal plan. I did see, it was just under the comprehensive permit plan, it should be still included in our set as well. But the location, snow removal.
See, snow removal isn't part of the Wetlands Protection Act. And that's all that this
So-
can deal with.
We can't, oh, is that correct?
Yeah, this is only under the Wetlands Protection Act,
Yeah, this is
under
the-
the state law.
Well, so DEP has a snow removal policy.
But DEP doesn't allow you to like roll snow into a,
Well, I think it would be appropriate to put no snow removal in the infiltration basin
Yeah.
or resource areas.
Yeah.
Or put, snow removal shall be as per the DEP,
Stormwater, snow removal
snow
standard.
removal standard, yeah.
Okay,
I think that would
Okay.
be appropriate.
so make that, and that's perpetual, so why don't we put
Yeah.
that as 85?
Yeah, sure.
85,
No, there's already an 85.
no, that, you turn that into 86.
oh, 86.
Yeah. No, make that
Hmm.
85 and
Well,
85 turns
Right,
to,
we make the signature
No,
one
the
80,
sign.
86 would be the
right there.
and
signatures.
then 85
So you
would be.
can't
Snow
have something
removal.
after this.
So we can have this, and we can change that number.
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
Per what? For the DEP,
DEP snow
Storm-
removal
stormwater.
standard policy.
DEP snow removal policy.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
wording it, can you say the wording again?
Snow removal per DEP snow removal policy.
Is it policy or regulations?
It's a
It's a
policy.
policy.
Yeah,
I'll double check, but I'm pretty sure it's a policy.
And that would be continuing.
yeah. That's why we put it here
Yeah.
under perpetual conditions.
Okay? Okay. Anything else we need to consider? All right, someone want to make that a motion to issue this order of condition as we have discussed?
I'll move it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
opposed, abstained, 600.
Does Doug
Okay.
have to abstain?
Hmm?
Yes, he does.
Abstain.
Oh, okay, 501. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I know, right?
Have ownership.
Okay. Okay,
At what point, do you expect the order of conditions to be, like, registered with the town or
you-
however it is?
you want to identify yourself, please?
I apologize, Liz Barrows, 189 Union Street. I'm just liking to have a little bit of, information about the procedure that the town takes.
What's your question?
What is the next step for the commission in terms of the timeframe for the order of conditions? And is it certified by the town, or how does it work?
The order of conditions will be issued shortly. Takes whatever time in the office to get that written up.
Right, so we were thinking that, so the commission has voted it tonight, so it just as a process, so, so that everyone who is interested in the project knows exactly when it's done, that we would have it, by Monday.
By Monday, and you send it to town clerk, or is that what happens?
It would go to, DEP, and it would stay with us, and it would, you file with town clerk? Yeah, the town clerk doesn't keep our records, so we would have it in the office, and we file it with DEP, and we give it to the applicant.
What is the file date or the date of approval? How is that determined?
The issuing date, and we're saying that we would have it issued on Monday.
On Monday. Okay. Thank you.
Okay?
4th, that would be November 4th. Just in case something happens to you, you can just call our office, but, I've talked to Amy and we both agree that we can have it ready for issuing date of November 4th.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, anybody else here for anything?
Well, Lou left and he shouldn't have, because we're gonna talk about him next. Right? Enforcement order?
He doesn't have to be here for that, but that's
Except that
for him. Anybody here for anything else? Okay. All right, we've got the minutes from, where are they? Okay, so this is, okay. Minutes from October 9th. What did I do with that? This is one.
Hang on 1 minute.
yes, that might be.
Passing out drugs?
Mints,
mints.
Mentos. I'm
Oh,
passing out
mint.
Mentos.
Okay. Okay, on page 3, on the wetland filing fee notice, you make a note that the,
This is page 2.
page 3,
Okay, yeah.
that the commission voted to approve $10,000.
Okay.
Need the amount in there. Okay?
Sure.
So subject to that, anybody have anything else? Oh, okay, on page 2, under Wall Street Development,
Yeah.
you have Paul McManus of Oxbow Associates.
I don't know why I put that. It's
He's
like
with
that.
Ecotech, so I just correct that. So subject to that, someone want to move the minutes?
I'll move
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
them. Right.
Opposed, abstained, 600. Good. What else we got here? That's that. Anything new on that Cobb's Pond DOT?
But we're still trying to iron out the language with the, town council and DOT, and so, it's not ready yet.
Okay. Okay, Main Street, 1900 Main Street, did we get any response from the engineer?
We got the green cards back from both the engineer and 1900, but nothing written, just green cards.
I guess, is that considered a response? We did not get any, because we sent this to 1900 Main Street and the engineer, right? That we wanted some response? And
Yep.
we got nothing.
And, right, we got nothing. They read the letter, or they received the letter, but they did not respond to the letter.
Okay.
Um, Excuse me, sir, are you here for anything particular?
He just likes to come to our meetings.
Oh, okay.
So I have a question about this.
I'm playing Marty.
Is one of our choices to let the NOI expire just because we've gone week after week after week with pretty much no responses?
So I was just putting the section of the regulations that addresses that, within 2 years, it's considered to be expired if the applicant does not
Has
move
not-
forward with
For 2 years.
addressing it. Right, so it's only been just short of a year.
Has it? Doesn't feel like
Well,
it.
for this phase of the whole thing, yes, it's, believe it or not, I guess it's only been a year.
Really?
Right.
Okay.
So, but you can close the hearing and deny the application based on insufficient information because they haven't been,
What do we accomplish?
Providing.
Yes, should we? I
What do
mean,
we accomplish?
Yeah, it doesn't accomplish anything,
So,
except to make him spend more money.
so I like the, not putting it
I
on
don't
the
think
agenda
they're really gonna
anymore.
do anything, so.
So I like that we agree not to put it on the agenda anymore,
Mhm.
and then if nothing moves forward,
And not to put it on the agenda until they actually submit what we're
right,
requesting.
yeah, they actually have to
And then we
submit.
re-advertise.
Right, okay, I like that.
I would at least do that.
And then it expires when you say, about a year
Yeah.
from now.
Okay.
Okay, should we advise the Board of Selectmen that we
Yeah.
have not received any information? We know that there is work proceeding on site based on observation from just driving by. You know, the parking lot must be 100 vehicles in there.
The way I kind of see is there's two things. This is what happens when the enforcement order says file a notice of intent, then they kind of get stuck in this limbo
Yeah.
situation where if they don't provide us information, that they're dragging out the process of complying with the enforcement order because they're not satisfying the notice. But they're still in violation because they are operating out there. They still cleared that whole back area where when they came in for the other notice of intents, we always said, this is for the front part, this is for the building.
Yeah.
This is not for the rear. If you want to do additional work in the rear, you have to come back and file with us. And they didn't do that. So they're still in violation in that they didn't have a notice of intent for the rear portion of the property. And because of the activity, they don't have any stormwater management. So you can just take no action on the notice and wait for them to provide information. But at the same time, you can also move forward on the enforcement, but, again, I don't know if issuing fines to them, I have a feeling they probably wouldn't pay them, and we would just be back in court trying to enforce that issue. I did go downstairs to see if I could talk to see if there was any additional activity that was occurring on the other end, and no one was around at the time, so I wasn't able to. But you could include a letter to the Board of Selectmen saying they still have a notice of intent, we're still waiting for the information, it
Yeah.
hasn't been received, they're still in violation
Yeah.
of the Wetlands Protection Act and the local bylaw, and that's where it stands at the moment.
Because the selectmen then have the ability to, stop business from happening there.
Well, they did, they don't have a license,
Oh, okay.
so,
Yeah, they didn't renew their license, or,
yeah.
I don't know if it was rescinded, but I think it just wasn't renewed.
It wasn't renewed, correct.
But they're still working there
Yeah,
They are,
I,
without a license.
they are.
Yeah.
So the letter to
I,
the selectmen,
well,
remind them that it's.
yeah,
on-
but we've got, without some, at least we're gonna get some action when their engineer was here, but then we haven't heard from him, which is not, is it out of line to call him and ask him why we haven't had any response?
I have a real reservation of keep on prompting them to do what we're telling them to do.
Well-
I agree.
It's there, because when you take that position, it's
Yeah.
you're flip-flopping the
Yeah,
process. The
that's right.
process is they need to comply with the regulations,
Right.
not that we have to keep on telling them to, or tell them you have to do this, you have to do that.
Well,
and it,
I'm
it-
not done with what I think. I'm just
I
asking, is
don't-
there any reason that we can't contact him and get his input as to why he hasn't, as he said he would, get back to us?
No.
There may be a good reason why he's not, is what I'm getting at, without
Then he can tell
deciding
us.
what it is.
Well, then it's the applicant should
Uh,
be
in
in here
addition-
saying
In
why.
addition, that we send a letter that because they haven't responded, we're going to start fining them unless we get a satisfactory response.
But I thought
as
that's what you
of-
just did.
What did we tell them?
We told them that we need a response, and we will start fining if they
Okay.
do not give us a response by today.
Okay, so we
Okay.
have already told them we're gonna fine them if we don't get a response. So I think we should, since we have not received a response, that we are issuing a fine. Now, how much are we gonna fine and for how long, how much?
So if you're gonna fine, I don't think it's appropriate to, you should fine in that they're in violation of the complying with the stormwater standards and not,
Right.
they don't have valid order conditions for the activity that they're doing.
Right.
Not that they haven't provided you with the information that you need to move forward, but that
Right.
they're in violation.
Sure.
Okay,
Told
so,
them to get into compliance a
okay,
year ago.
so we're
or
gonna start-
longer than that.
And that
fine.
should be in the letter to the selectmen, so the
Yes.
selectmen know.
Yeah, that we have
we're filing.
instituted a fine now. We can fine, I think it's, we worded is up to $300 per day per violation. So their violation is they have not complied with the stormwater management plan. Is that right? Is that what they're in violation of? Is that
With
what
the
our-
stormwater management standards.
Okay, so that's their violation.
And then invalid order of conditions.
Right, so they're, that they are not in compliance with the act, because the activity occurring is without controlling stormwater discharge to the bordering vegetated wetlands with an approved stormwater management plan, that they don't have an approved
Right.
stormwater management plan.
Okay, and have not responded to our repeated requests for a stormwater management plan. Is that right? Do we have to say that?
I don't, I think the way that I understand it more is there has to be not a lack of information that they're providing, but something that they're doing is altering the resource area.
Okay.
So that's why I say I think that the fine should be based on that there's an activity that's occurring to the rear of the property without stormwater management, which
Yeah.
they
Okay.
Yeah,
were supposed to
Okay.
do, and they haven't done, and they haven't been doing for quite a
Mhm.
long time. So that would be the fine,
Okay,
the lack of
so
stormwater
come up with a
management.
wording, and I think, run that by town council, the wording of the fine. Now, how much? We do a one-time till we get a response, or do we do it on a per diem till we get a response?
Good question.
The statute allows 300 a day, and,
Up to $300 a day. We don't,
yeah,
we got into a little
yeah,
issue with this
I know
on
that.
another
yeah.
situation, so that's why I'm, instead of the flat 300, I'm inclined to go with the $100 per day, beginning when?
Tomorrow, because he was supposed to do
Whenever we can
something
get
by
the letter,
today.
yeah, they were supposed to have
Yeah.
something to us, right? Our last letter said, have something to us, some information to us by this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, so then, not at this meeting, so we begin tomorrow, $100 per day. continue until we receive the information required,
A completed filing.
a completed filing, okay? Is that all right?
Yes and no, so that would require, filling out and, like we did for the other one, a, form each day that he does not comply. And then the 21 days to pay or tell us that he wants to go to court would be for each of those days. It gets a little complicated that
All
way.
right, all right, yeah, I
So
hear what
we
you-
would have 21 days starting from tomorrow, and then 21 days starting from
But
the next
you've
day, and
gotta-
next day, and next day, and next day, and it gets.
You've gotta write a ticket for
That's-
each day.
That's why the ones that I issued before were all for
Okay.
the same.
All right, then let's revise this to do a
Day.
$300 fine, one $300 fine,
One $300 fine.
yeah, until, beginning,
I mean, why don't you do?
to be reviewed at our next meeting, which is November 13th. So there'll be a one-time $300 fine. So you got one ticket and we will review the situation at our next meeting, November 13th.
I think that would probably get their attention, doing it that way, and it would be easier to administratively do. I mean, if it's someone that has fill somewhere and you're like, I'm gonna charge you $100 a day till you remove it, then I think that process makes sense, but,
Yeah.
so the $300,
Okay, so we
let's
got
say you fine them
$300
$300.
Yeah.
day, and we review it at our next meeting, November 13th, so someone make that a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained,
So
600.
then if they don't at the next meeting, we may impose another.
So we
Is that-
can
That's
do
what-
another, I think, yeah, because there's a lot of paperwork,
Mhm.
and you have to do it, if we say per day, then you gotta do one for
Yeah.
each day, you can't.
And the 21 days starts each day that you issue it. So, and then should we issue a separate letter basically saying we're still waiting for you to provide the information that to fulfill the notice of intent application on the stormwater management. You need to provide that to us, and once you've provided that to us, we need to re-advertise, and we'll let you know of when the hearing
Yeah.
is, because
Okay. Yeah,
you need to
include
do
that.
that, because otherwise, you don't know when we don't know when it's coming in, we don't know how it's coming in, there's no
yeah,
rhyme or reason,
do,
so we'll
yeah.
let them know that your hearing is still open, but we're not gonna continue it till the next date until you get the information we need
Sure.
in.
Yeah.
And then we will set the date for
Yeah.
the
Okay.
continuance.
And just, I think, just run this through,
You want me to run it through town council?
just in anticipation that we may wind up there again.
Guarantee you we will,
Uh,
but not because they will ask for, well, they might, because they've been there, so they know how it
Yeah,
works.
they know where it is. So, okay.
Okay.
All right, so we're set on that one. Boyden Estates, this is nothing, we heard anything on that?
Well, that's why I wish Lou had stayed. I mean, I would just ask, why is there not an as-built for lot 5 where there's a house and a steep slope down and people living there?
People living there?
Yeah, lot,
I think
is
so.
that that's lot 5, right? Yeah,
Right,
there
that's-
is
that's what-
somebody living
Yeah,
there,
there's
yeah.
more living, so,
He's also building a new,
so
he's got a
should, so I
foundation
wonder if
in.
it should be CC'd to the building inspector. No?
Building
No?
inspector
Okay.
doesn't have anything to do with it, I mean, now, he sold the lot, it's now owned by the people who are living there,
But who's
and they have an
responsible,
occupancy permit.
who's
We're in.
responsible for the as-built?
Well, Ultimately, we generally try to get the developer to do it, the original applicant to do it. I think the ultimate responsibility is the homeowner eventually, that I provided them with all the information, I dropped it in their mailbox to let them know. I think, and I don't wanna speak for Wall Street Development, but my conversations, so the way the order is written is, you need to request a certificate of compliance upon completion of the project, not. And then there's also a provision that the order of conditions is good for 3 years. So the way a lot of people interpret it is I have 3 years to do that.
Oh, okay.
However, if there's a discrepancy, it needs to be done as soon as possible. So that's why we asked him to provide us with an as-built. And his answer is, well, I will, but I have 3 years. I'm not doing it now. More or less, that's what he said.
Did we get a response from him
I've gotten verbal response from him.
that he's not gonna do it?
He is up to 3 years, according to him.
Okay.
That he doesn't have to do it upon completion of the project, he has to do it before the order expires.
Right. And there's a question of whether that's the correct interpretation or not.
Does that language need to be clarified?
I think it says upon completion of the project. So
Okay.
It's
All right.
his interpretation. But is it, yeah.
But it's up to him to request a certificate of compliance.
Right, and we
Now,
have
if
some
the
there.
lawyer that dealt with the sale of the house didn't care whether there was a certificate
I-
of compliance, that's the lawyer's
I think it was
deal.
probably
Yeah, you
I
know.
think it was, that it didn't happen that way, I'm sure. I don't know how exactly it happened. They moved from Kevin's Way to Boyden Estates.
They wanted more yard.
They wanted more yard.
Yeah, and we actually
And I
do
think he
get,
sells his own houses, so
Oh.
there's no realtor involved.
and we do have certificates of compliance that come in on the late side.
Well, sometimes 20 years later.
Well, that's usually a mistake.
Yeah.
Well,
All right.
Just didn't care
So,
until they wanted to sell.
nothing
Sometimes
new
they don't
on
come in
that.
at all.
Did he file for that house he wanted an amendment on, whatever lot that was?
No.
He didn't. Okay. Certificate of compliance, what do we got here? 749 North Street?
Yep, that's good. That was for,
That's okay.
garage addition.
Okay, so we wanna move that.
I'm over it.
In a second.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 600. And
And the
the
second
other
one,
short, that's short view,
or Shoreview, that's all set too,
shore view,
Another-
okay.
addition.
Someone wanna move that?
I'm over it.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, abstained. 600.
Under correspondence, so that they had to file an E and F for the Route 1 Fields project.
What happened about that at town meeting?
What happened?
Well, it passed.
It did. Good.
Town meeting was one night. You're not at RTM anymore?
No,
You got drummed out?
I did.
Wow.
I didn't win re-election
Oh, you didn't want to re-elect?
after 17 years or something.
Wow, so that's strange. Something about,
Sorry?
I would have voted for you.
Oh, thanks.
was that one of those things like there's a long list and you were toward the bottom?
No,
Was
you
the year-
should, you should have been near the top, or did they they took
I
out,
don't
they
remember.
moved you down the
That's right, they
list
shouldn't
because
be
of
at the
V,
bottom.
yeah.
It was a year ago in June. You remember when the North Street, that whole thing, a lot of people,
Oh,
lot
North
of-
Street, oh, yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of people went,
Influx.
yes.
1850.
okay,
Now they
And,
don't show up.
yeah, I don't know.
That's, yeah.
okay.
So that's, yeah, there was a lot of people on the ballot, unusually, a lot, you know, so. I don't know.
That would explain it.
I'm out. Oh, shucks.
Cliff Snuffer got voted out too, but
Did he
he's
really?
been, he's at 35 years, I think, he said.
Wow.
Did he really? Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there were a few of us that had been off a long time though.
Right, they got.
Yeah.
But that's a
yeah.
lot of organization to do that, wow.
So, we have anything else?
Do we have anything else? I don't think we have anything else.
Okay, well, we decided to change our summer schedule in 2020 to July 8th and August 12th.
The
Is
first,
that right?
the
Yeah,
first,
we did that.
You did that, okay, so that's done. And I need information for the selectmen, which is next Tuesday, for the filing fee,
Okay.
whatever you have, how much is in it. You got,
Oh, about 4. Yes. I have it. Okay.
okay, so I need that. I have an appointment with them Tuesday.
Yes, yeah.
And that's, anybody have anything else?
So we had an open space and recreation workshop
Oh.
last night, and that was not huge, but people came, a few people came, so we discussed.
I think that guy, Joe, what's his,
Sachi.
Sachi, he puts on a good presentation.
Yeah.
He did a lot of work, a lot of interesting information that he did on the demographics in Walpole and what's available and what's been done, and
Yeah,
so
things
hopefully
have,
that's,
things have changed.
you know, population projections, and that, hopefully we get that, he has something that, we wind up with a booklet or something on that. 'cause
Well,
it's
all
something-
that information is in the open space plan.
Okay,
Will be in
it
the,
will be, okay.
but I think
um,
he's gonna send me a PowerPoint.
Okay. And one other, we do have a new trail map up at Adams Farm. All the trail intersections have been numbered, and it's on the map and also in the field with the number and the new map. And that's, they're in the box there. We asked for a $1 donation for them, but anyhow, if anybody is looking at it. And the trails they've been blazed and they're color coded, so it all matches the map and the color code, so. And we got some kiosks, Eagle Scout project, they put up 4 kiosks, different spots around where you are and with the map on that, so.
Nice.
You don't have anything to do? You ought to also take a look at that boardwalk across from the Jarvis Farm to Town Forest.
I've walked on that. It's nice. Yeah.
I haven't been there yet, but it's
Oh, nice.
on my list. Roger?
Jack, any opportunity to put the GPS readings for those key points?
I know Gary Riggett did use his GPS to locate them and make the revisions to the map. Well, I don't know what he did with them.
Well, I think it would be kind of nice to help people, find those areas.
I don't know, how would you make a list?
You could make a list,
You
each
can't put them
point.
on the map.
Well, you might be able to put them on the side of the map, it's full.
I don't know how many. There's probably 30, 40 numbers, intersections that are listed. So,
Well, I'm just
yeah,
thinking,
I don't know how I would do it. To put it on the map would be, we had enough trouble getting on what is there. But I'm pretty sure that Gary did the, as far as locating them and actually revising the trails so that they, I believe, reflect what is, what's on the ground is what shows on the map. Whereas before there was
That's major,
some,
considering what it was
disc-
before.
Yeah.
Just before everyone else goes, so just wanted to, so there's two other projects. One, Fuss, if you see Fuss and O'Neill is out and about town. They're doing a survey of all the culvert crossing, the road culvert crossings. That's part of our MVP grant, action grant. So they're putting together all that data for us. And then we also got the grant for data to be collected down on Union Street at the Tropple Brook culverts. Both culverts, there's one at the main stem, and then there's the other one that's labeled as Tropple Brook that isn't really Tropple Brook, closer to Route 1. So ESS will be starting as soon as we get the contract to do that as well. They're gonna look at the culverts, they're gonna look at the watershed, they're gonna look at sort of the complex area back there and then determine if the culverts need to be removed and replaced. Get us that data information back, so and then we also will be starting the hydro raking project for Memorial Pond soon this fall. So they're gonna be taking some of the cattails and purple loosestrife phragmites out on the Diamond Street side of the pond, not a huge area, but just what we could afford to do, taking it on a barge across the pond and staging it over near the brick wall, and then the DPW will take it away. So those are a couple projects in town that I've been a
I
part of.
noticed the fence out here has been removed.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be they've been doing a lot of improvements to
Yeah.
the Joe Morgan Field and the park, and they paved the parking lot and brought up stormwater, but no stormwater management there.
yeah, I saw them, I saw a DPW guy, I was out walking, and I says, he was checking the culvert down where, Harper's, you know, where the little stream crosses, the one people were complaining about, the one in the back.
For Old Friend
And I
Park.
started just chatting with him, he said, yeah, we're checking all the culverts, and I looked down, and it's probably 10 feet or so, but it's really thick shrubs right now, and I see two yellow, fluorescent yellow forms down there. They were at the culvert, whatever they were doing, that goes under Washington
Right.
Street.
Yeah.
Oh, you were checking out the culvert and then on
No,
the
they were, I was up on the
Yeah,
sidewalk.
Yeah, you
But
saw
it was
them.
when
there,
you
though.
mentioned,
Yeah.
I saw their
That's why you
vehicle,
were
Fuss and
laughing.
O'Neill, yeah.
Yeah,
the,
they get down there, they get in.
And some of them,
Wow.
yeah,
All right.
our tax dollars being spent,
Shall we move to adjourn?
why not? Are you ready?
Grant
Okay.
money, not tax dollars.
Oh, that's
Wow.
grant money.
Maybe
Okay.
your state taxes, but.